The Dungeon Master's Guide. We're playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons solo style. We are in the Wolflands, and we have a large expedition right here in the center of the Wolflands. I'm not going to do a whole big long introduction. We got a lot to get to, and I really want to save time. Suffice it to say, this is Castle Weasel, a few short miles from Long Lake, and if we zoom in on the territory, it's going to look a little something like this. In fact, we'll zoom in just a little bit more. In our last episode, I kind of played fast and loose, and I wasn't careful. I wasn't looking at the clock, or I should say the calendar. Today, the day this video goes live, is going to be February 6th, which interestingly was the last day of the adventures of the last video. So we've now caught up. We are right where we want to be and gaming in 1-to-1 time. The 6th, I'm wrong, on the 7th. On February 7th, so that's tomorrow, we explored out away from Castle Weasel, and just to refresh your memory, this is what Castle Weasel looks like. It's a big ruin pile, and effective on the, I should write it down on here, because I keep losing track of where my timeline is. Effective on the 11th, we're going to finish digging a ditch. We got a low ditch dug right here to kind of seal up this gap. We probably put a pile of rocks. Any rocks that were in the ditch, we piled up here. So we have kind of a low pile that we're getting ready. We sorted them out, the ones that are useful. The stonemasons are looking at them and they're making a pile in here so we can start rebuilding the wall. But we need to build a wooden palisade first. The wall is going to take a long time. It's a tall wall. We got to dig it. It's going to be a whole thing, right? It's going to be a whole production. So on the 11th, of this week in real time, that's when the ditch is complete. And then on the 18th, a week later, we'll get the wooden palisade. So you can see it drawn in there. We already deducted those finances from our purse, most of which is back in Harrington, but we probably have 5,000 to 10,000. We need to declare that. I haven't done that yet. We'll figure that out when we get there. Probably let the dice decide exactly how much cash we have on hand. And let's do that right now, as a matter of fact. How many thousands of gold pieces do we have on hand? Bear in mind, we do have wagons going back and forth. And it's just kind of an automatic thing. They take a week, and then they get back. Take a week, and then they get back. And we probably should keep a track of where that's at. But let's just do this. How many thousands of gold do we have on hand? We have 10,000 gold on hand. That's not actually right. So I'm going to make a note of this. My war chest is 34,700. Oh, wait a minute. The initial improvements for 540. I have 34. So I have, and then if you remember in our last episode, we had 60 pilgrims show up and eat all our food. So that cost us some money. We had to give our boys some extra, like an extra 200. So essentially what I'm going to declare here is that I would have had 10,000 gold pieces on hand, but I spent 160. And then I spent another 540. So I've spent a total of, if we add those up, you get 700 gold. So I really only have 9,300 gold pieces at the castle. Okay? The rest of this is, so 90, I've got 24,700 at Harrington. And don't yell at me for the name of this. If you don't like Stranger Things, you blame somebody else, okay? Because my viewers came up with these names, which I love. If you have some good names for some things, like you have some ideas about what those goofy pilgrims were that showed up for a while, they're on their way back to civilization from visiting Castle Konisberg. And I'm filming this way early, so if you've already told me how to pronounce Konisbau, I think it's Konisbau. If you're making fun of my American accent, then I deserve it. I'm a big boy. I can take it. Last time on the 7th, we found these ruins right here. I know. So today's the day. Hey, we found the ruins today. Isn't that great? Now we're going to start to explore, and our first day we're going to explore kind of around the pond, and that's going to mean rolling to see if we have encounters, and then we'll just kind of work our way clockwise. Actually, now that I think about it, why don't we go ahead and explore up here first? Because we know we're going to need that palisade lickety-split. We'll explore the scrubland. We can see from the castle, so reinforcements are fairly close at hand if we get into some combat. And then, once we've cleared that, and maybe we clear this second, so this would be the 8th, and then the 9th, and then, the 10th would be around here, and then the 11, 12, 13th, which would take us up to our next episode. The 9th is Sunday. It's the Sabbath. It's the holy day. We don't send anybody out. It's our day of rest. It keeps the morale high. It keeps our boys safe. It keeps them happy. You know, because Saturday night is a whole different picture. We know what these soldiers are like. We're sending out groups of 20. We got 10 woodsmen and 10 heavy boys, and they're going to go out. Here on the 9th, we're going to check. Why don't we go ahead and check this section first, right? Because then we'll be able to explore that. Well, we want to go this way and this way, as I said. So on the 9th, we're going to have to roll 7 times to explore those 7 hexes. And essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count 7 times. There's a 1 in 10 chance that we have an encounter. And the first, like where we are in here doesn't really matter so much. But we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that's going to be kind of the time of day, too. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you stupid auto zoom. 5, 6, 7. Hey, we got through the 8th without any issue, and then on the 9th, nothing happens. So I've now explored, and then I'm just putting little dots here in the center. Boop, 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 and boop. I know I have an extra up there. And then, you know, maybe we roll one more time for that hex, and then one more time for that hex. So we've kind of explored all the way out here to the west, okay? Then on the 9th, we take our break, and then on the 10th, we have to roll again. I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I got to roll 11 times here. I think we're going to have an encounter. That was an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so on day 4, not 4. It's open territory. We can search pretty fast. I'm just going to say that I explored 1, 2, 3, 4. So here on the edge of the pond, we have an encounter. And to find out what we encounter, we all know the drill. We go back to our random encounter tables in the Dungeon Master Guide. I'm so glad I'm not doing this live streaming. I miss doing this with you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys have amazing ideas and really help me flesh things out. But it gives me a little bit more time to kind of adjust on the fly and, you know, not re-roll dice. So 64 is going to be in the Scrublands Men Pilgrims. Apparently, we're getting a bit of a reputation, and you know, this is not the same group of. Maybe it is the same group of pilgrims. Here's where you can have some fun with your solo exploration. Let's find out how many pilgrims there are. There are 60 pilgrims. Wait a minute, it was 60 before. What? And we're only now. We encountered them on the 6th. They hung out to the 7th. So they spent 2 days. They were only a day out. So why would they return? Is it the same group of pilgrims? Let's take a look at the probabilities here. You know, I think, what a weird coincidence, right? There is a 35% chance they're the lawful good, 20% chance they're chaotic good. I think it's the same group of pilgrims. I think maybe we're getting scammed here. They come back. Let's find out what their response is. Maybe we accidentally gave them food poisoning. And I'm going to eliminate the minus 5%. We've already had good relations with these guys. We gave them some free stuff. They're going to be more inclined to like us. But that still means, if we check here we go. A 62 is still uncertain, prone towards positive. So then we have to roll, hoping for less than 55, and they're a little put out with us. They say, hey, you know, apparently our boys got sick. We only got halfway around the lake, and then we got to return for more. But we do outnumber them, kind of. They're mounted, so I guess what we'll do, they're not happy with us. So this time around, because they're just pilgrims, and there's a lot of clerics, they could do a lot of damage to us. I think this time around, man, how crazy is it that those numbers came back almost exactly the same? Maybe, you know, in retrospect, maybe, now that we know it was 2-3 days, I think about it, maybe they were coming to visit the holy shrine of Corvusberg, and now they're on their way back. And it was really disappointing. They thought it was going to be a lot more to it. It's like a modern day Marvel movie. They were like, man, I was set to be blown away, and it was just kind of meh. So they say, well, we're going to camp out here again, but you got to feed us a little better, and that's going to cost us another. We'll let the dice decide, right? So here. Last time it cost us 120 to feed them. So this time it's going to cost us. Why don't we roll 2d10 to find out? 40. That's 140 this time. So we got to feed them a little bit more. 140 GP to feed the Pilgrims again. And that's going to reduce our local cash on hand to 9,160 gold. These guys are expensive, but not nearly as expensive as like an orcish attack. I will take it. Now, that was only 4, so I'm still rolling to see what happens next. I get a 2, and I'm still... So that's number 5. 6, 7, 8. So we have another encounter. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now it's going to be an encounter in this hex right here. Rolling percentile dice to see who shows up. We get a 70, which is... Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Is this the Pilgrims again? These guys are going to eat us out of house and home. I'm starting to think these aren't Pilgrims, guys. I'm starting to think maybe we're getting scammed. Scrubland is the second column, and as you can see, it's an ogre. Oh, we missed it by that much. Ogre attack. Bear in mind, it's still the 10th. Number appearing 2 to 20. 1, 8 ogres. Before we run this combat, let's take a look at what it means when you are doing kind of a more mass combat-y way of doing things. 8 ogres, and each ogre has 4 + 1 hit dice. So that means it takes 4 hits to kill them. All right? So you can kind of fudge that a little bit and say, all right, well, every hit die gives you about 4.5 hit points. Add the 1 that gives you 19, 20. This is going to be a real problem for 20 humans. They've only got 20 hit dice. It's a little less than that, actually, because remember, these are 0-level boys for the most part. We've got 9 0-level guys plus a 1-hit die guy. So we treat these as basically 1-hit die creatures on average. They still only have about 4 hit points each. Actually, it would be 5, wouldn't it? It's D6 plus 1, which is the average of 3.5 plus the 1 gives us 5 hit points each. So again, each of these ogres is 4 times as strong as a guy, as one of my dudes, which means I'm looking at about a 3 to 2 advantage to the ogres. They are an obviously superior foe who is attacking my guys. The other thing that we should take a look at here is that this battle is taking place in this hex right there. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away, 800 yards away. That's 80 inches. Movement rates now become a factor. It is through scrubland, which is slower. In other words, if our guys are moving, if I've got reinforcements of more light infantry that normally move 12 inches per turn, they could get here in about 7 turns, except scrubland is going to slow them down. It's going to take 5 rounds of combat. That means we don't want to fight these guys at all. If we gain the initiative, we're going to run away. We are going to come back and hit these guys with a much stronger force. So I could check for distance, but the first thing we check for is, are we surprised? We are not with a result of a 4. Are they surprised on a 1 or a 2? Yes, they are. Okay, this is great. This is exactly what we needed. To find out how far away we are at the start of the combat, we roll 6d4, and we're going to reduce 3s and 4s by 1, because again, we're in the scrublands. There's broken down trees and rocks and hills. So it's going to be fairly close quarters here. Got to roll 6 times. That's going to be, treat that as a 2. Treat that as a 3, so we're at 5. Oh, they're a little further away than I expected. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then for the last one, 10, 11, 12. So 12 inches away, and the ogres can only move at, well, actually, they're pretty fast, aren't they? What does it say here? They can move 9 inches per turn. And how fast can our boys move? Well, the guys in chainmail are going to be moving at... Ooh, sorry about that. Well, normal gear is 12 inches, call it 9 inches, we're still going to be moving at the same speed that they are. That means that we're going to be able, remember I said it's 90, maybe we're both moving at about 6. It's going to take us about 10 minutes to get back to the safety of the castle, blowing the horn the whole time, so we're going to get some major reinforcements. Turn your attention back to the hex clearing. Remember that that's the point of the exercise. If we take a look at our key paragraph here on page 93 once again, then it says, check once for reminder monsters, but any monster that is not driven off or slain will be there from then on, excepting, of course, those encountered flying. That means that we have 8 ogres in this hex. In fact, they're in this hex right here, and that's going to basically wrap things up for the day of the 10th. We've escaped from the ogres, or we just bring the whole force around. Remember, 10 of our horses are on escort duty. They're trying to keep our wagons safe from encounters. But that does mean that we'll be able to bring everybody else to bear, and we'll be able to, I guess maybe the ogres in hot pursuit are going to come up on our guys, and it'll actually wind up being 20 heavy foot. So we have a second level fighter in there, right? If I bring both of these heavy foot to play, then I can make an attack with my 2 hit die creature, which would help. And again, I've got 20 light foot, 20 heavy foot. So now we're up to parity, right? This is 20, 40, 42, 44 hit dice. And that doesn't even include my archers. So we get back to the safety of the castle, and we have ourselves a lovely little tabletop battle, which we could probably, if I had more time, I had more the inclination, I could throw some ogres on the table. I already know what my terrain would look like, right? I would be somewhere here in these, the open scrub lands, this is where the encounter starts, with my guys running back, yelling for reinforcements. But we're going to keep this fairly light, and instead what I think I'm going to do is use the magic of ratios. And that turns the battle into something like this. 1 ogre versus 2 heavy foot, 2 archers, and 2 light foot. The good news is I got a lot less dice I got to roll. The other good news is because I can bring my archers to bear, I'm going to get 2 attacks with these archers before the ogres even get close enough to do any damage. We've got a couple of minutes to prepare. And again, my horsemen are out doing whatever it is the horse guys do. So what this battle is going to amount to is the 2 archers taking their shot, and they're not great, right? So I got to roll, and it's if we take a look at the combat matrix for these guys, I should probably zoom out a little bit here, shouldn't I? The archers are not going to be hitting on a very high amount. Flip to it, I can show you what the difference is here, because the numbers are going to be the same. All of my guys that are attacking, right, they're 0 level guys. So they're trying to hit an armor class of, what's the ogre's AC? 5. So trying to hit an AC of 5, we're looking for a 16 across the board, okay? And like I said, I got 2 shots with the archers before we get into melee. So the first shot is a miss, the second shot is a hit. And that means that my band of ogres is down to just 3 hit dice already. And maybe a little bit more. I'm going to ignore the +1. That does help them a little bit. It doesn't help them a little bit on their 2 hit. So then if the ogres charge into the heavy foot, and my light foot are going to try to flank around the sides, right? So they're going to get some attacks. But basically, Mr. Ogre charges into the 2 heavy foot. And I'm using a 1-to-8 ratio, and I'm kind of I don't really care about individual figures at this point. Okay, it's below the resolution. We're resolving at a resolution that's higher than that. The heavy foot have spears, so when the ogres charge into them, the heavy foot get to attack first. They've got the longer reach weapon. The problem here is that they still need a 16, so a 10 and a 2 is nothing. And then the ogres are going to be able to attack. And the ogres, because they charge, will be hitting on a 9. So they do 1 hit, and that's it. And that 1 hit says, goodbye, heavy foot. So I'm going to have to pay to replace that heavy foot. On the next turn, the heavy foot get their attack. and they miss. And then my Lightfoot move in, and they get 2 attacks. And we get a miss and a miss. And the ogre makes his attack and hits. So the heavy foot is eliminated. I no longer have heavy foot. But my Lightfoot now get to attack, and we get 1 hit, and that's it. So the ogres are down to 2 hits. I've forgotten something very important here. With the reduction to half power, and the reduction to half power here, we need to check our morale for both sides of the forces. I probably should have done that on the last turn too. And man, I'm really hamstringing myself by not bringing the horsemen into play. I really could have used those couple of extra hits, huh? So let's check for, that's encounter reaction. I'm looking for morale. I guess I probably should have started a little bit later than that. Or earlier, I should say. Faced by an obviously superior force, you check each round. I should have been checking for the ogres. The ogres are now outnumbered 60 hit dice to 32. The way this works, you have a 50% chance of running away. Once a quarter of the party is eliminated, then once half is eliminated, so we're at plus 70% chance they run away. So for the ogres, they're at a 43, and they're going to basically boogie. Each enemy deserting, each enemy slain, each inflicting casualties without receiving any, each friend killed taking casualties, each friend deserting, outnumbered by 3 or more to 1. That doesn't really apply to the ogres here. So the ogres have had enough, and our boys have also had enough. So the ogres remain, and I need to bring out some reinforcements. But the ogres, we've reduced their numbers by half, and I think we're going to call it quits here. And in order to replace my heavy foot, remember that in the case of this style of play, what you're really doing, yes, Biscotti, I know you're ready for bed. We're going to put you down pretty quick. This is going to be expensive because it means that my heavy foot are going to cost me 4,200 to replace. Whew, that's not great. The Lightfoot and the archers retreated, of course. Maybe the Lightfoot retreated behind the archers, and that's when the ogres decided we've had quite enough of this. Thank you very much. So this is going to, replacing troops is going to be really expensive. Maybe this isn't a great way to run a campaign. We'll have to think a little bit more about this. Next week we're gonna pause the exploration there. And we'll still continue to do this in one-to-one time. That means that our fortress here, in our next episode, we'll take a look at what happens when you just kind of sit here and don't do a whole lot. After all, it's going to take a week for the message to get home, and then another week for reinforcements to arrive. So for the next 2 weeks, we don't have anybody suitable to do any exploring. In fact, let's just, real quick, let's take a look here. If we look at our cost for recruitment for heavy foot, to get 20 additional heavy foot is going to set us back 2,100. I think I got to go 40. I think, given our new understanding of how these guys work, we can bring in another 40 troops to operate directly under Captain... what was his name? Captain Von Trapp. So for 4,200 plus, boy, it's another 80? 280, no, 840, plus another 840, for about 3,000, about 6,000, and that's what I got right down here. For 5,800, that's going to come out of, remember our war chest from last time, we take 5,800 out of our war chest, and we get another 40 guys, and maybe we can chase those ogres out of there. Where'd my notes go about that? Here we go. So remember, I've got 9,200 here. If I take 5,800 out of the Harrington in order to recruit those guys, they'll be available in 2 weeks from today. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the rules. Again, paragraph at the top of page 93. That's what we're going with. We're going to see what happens if we just kind of work. We'll send our light infantry out to protect the work parties with an eye towards retreating back to the castle at the sign of any threat. The castle weasel is going to be our force multiplier that will keep us safe, but we have to see who shows up to try to chase us out of town. And if it's a dragon, if it's somebody too impressive, if we can't rationalize or justify being friends, or maybe we make a friend, maybe we finally get some decent rolls on our reaction checks. Hard to say, but I can say that this has been interesting. It's a different way of running a solo campaign, thinking about things more like a general, thinking about things from a higher level. That's just kind of what we do here in the House of Wargaming. And I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Go ahead and throw any suggestions or anything you noticed that I did wrong. I know I did morale wrong. We'll work on that. We'll get better, I promise. Anything else that you can think of, make sure you let me know. It's how we improve our play. Iron sharpens iron, after all. And I need you iron men to sharpen me up and keep me on my toes. That's what it's all about. Until next time, I'm praying for you.